Today, we're going to take a look at writing hooks in your argumentative writing. What is a compositional risk? A hook, and why should I use it in my writing? A compositional risk or hook is when a writer uses language in a fun, unusual, or interesting way in order to engage the reader. Some examples of this include similes, metaphors, onomatopoeia, questions, repetition, imagery, and many more. Hooks give your essay a voice and character. A writer uses compositional risk to improve their ability to communicate a message to the reader, make the writing more interesting, which makes the reader want to know more and makes them more interested, enhance the quality of their essay overall by making it more original. In an argument, we use different hooks than a narrative. This is because we have to focus the reader on our textual evidence and examples.
That's one of those sentence enhancers. You use them when you want to talk things. You just sprinkle it over anything you say, and well, you got yourself a spicy sentence sandwich.
The first hook we're going to look at is rhetorical questions. A rhetorical question is one I see a lot. It's when we ask a question to the reader, but we don't get an answer. This is useful because as a writer, asking a reader a question forces them to think. This is useful to the reader because the more the reader thinks, the more they'll care about your essay. As a writer, make sure you ask quality questions. Boring ones will not interest the reader. If we look at the topic of is technology killing our friendships, we could use the following questions. Would you consider someone who comes over your house to text all the other people they know a friend? How might your cell phone change your definition of a friend? Are friends the people you see, smile in person, or see emojis from on your phone? Notice these questions don't have answers because the reader can't tell you it, but it will make them think. The second hook we're going to look at are similes and metaphors. A simile is a comparison between two things using like or as. A metaphor is a direct comparison between two things. Both compare but in different ways. Figurative speech is used to make a description more accurate, interesting, or vivid. Vivid means easier to see in your head. So figurative language are your similes and metaphors. For example, a simile. Robert's fingers clicked on the keyboard as fast as a cheetah out of a cannon. So I'm saying it's as fast. I'm comparing it. I'm not saying it's literal. Robert's fingers were little cheetahs, clicking text after text. Now it's more direct. I'm not using like or as, so it's a metaphor. Teenagers today believe their phones are as important as air. So I'm comparing their phones being important to air being important. A metaphor would be, phones today are essential air to teenagers. They cannot live without them. It's more direct. I'm still comparing them, but in a different way. One that I like to see is hyperbole and exaggeration. A hyperbole is an extreme exaggeration that is not meant to be taken seriously. This is useful to a writer because it forces the reader to pay closer attention to a point you are writing about. Hyperbole tends to be fun as well, as it's very dramatic. You can say most teens spend 44 hours per week on their phone. Their eyes are basically glued to the screens. We know that isn't literal. You're exaggerating, but you're getting the point across. I can tell they're on their phones a lot. Teens today have an average of 525 friends on social media. That's probably more than double the amount of people that their parents even know. Teenagers prefer Instagram over any other app, where they take billions of photos a day. There aren't billions of photos posted every day, but it's exaggerating. It's letting the reader know that there's a lot. The fourth hook is list and repetition. Repetition is when you say the same word several times, which is helpful because it'll help the reader pay attention and help you focus the reader's attention over one word or idea, but you don't want to overuse it. It can get not just boring, but also kind of annoying. Listing is when you provide a few examples in a row. This is helpful when you have a lot of information or evidence and want the reader to know it quickly. For example, repetition would be texting, texting, texting. An average teenager sends over 3,300 texts per month. That focuses me on the texting part. Listing. If you can't find your friend at the park, you know they are always connected. Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are some virtual places to stay in touch. By giving me that list, it helps me focus because I know all these different ideas are all in one sentence. I don't have to read 10 sentences to figure out these ideas. Hook 5. Imagery. Imagery is when you paint a picture inside the reader's head by using the 5 senses: see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. Imagery is helpful for the writer as it allows the reader to feel like they are there, or see it in further details. For example, some kids spend as much as 4 hours on YouTube a day. That means a glowing white screen is flashing at them for hours while zips and zaps from the speakers chirp in their ears. Notice, you can see the glowing white screen, the flashing, then we have the zips and zaps from the speakers chirp in their ears. We have sight and sound. All anyone can hear is click, click, click as a teenager texts a friend across the country. Her fingers rapidly poked a cold, smooth screen. So we have touch and see in order to speak instead of yelling loudly through the park. Hook 6. This is one I like to see the most, and it's the easiest to do. Awesome vocabulary. That's when you replace that boring everyday word with something even better. Boring words are ones that are said too often or aren't too clear. For example, while kids liked the small phones, adults liked the larger ones. That could be a true statement, but not necessarily interesting. While kids preferred the compact phones, adults wanted the colossal ones. These sentences mean the exact same thing, but the second one is much more interesting and vivid. So we want to use our hooks to engage the reader, keep them interested, and most importantly, push our essay up on the rubric. If we use our hooks and really push ourselves, you'll see your scores going way up because you're going to have the reader engaged, interested, and wanting to know more.
Victory!